This video is again looking at graphing linear equations, except the method we will be looking at is looking at the intercept method. So before we actually look at the actual method, let's talk about how do we identify intercepts. So over here I have the graph y equals 4x minus 8. So when we look at the intercepts, it's really very simple. So the intercepts are where does this line cross the x-axis and where does it cross the y-axis. So you can see that the line crosses right there and right there. So your x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So that would be to 0. Your y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So this method is looking at only plotting those 2 points. Plot the x-intercept, plot the y-intercept, and connect the dots. So if we're identifying the x and y-intercepts here, you can notice here in this is not a straight line, obviously. This is a parabola, which we don't get into graphing, but not in this video, but we have an intercept here, an intercept here, and an intercept here. So we could have multiple x's or multiple y-intercepts. That's okay. So for this, we have 2 x-intercepts, and that would be 3, 0, and that would be negative 1, 0. We have 1 y-intercept, and that would be 0, negative 3. Now we could have lines like this one over here where we have an intercept, but then we have no y-intercept because this line will never cross the y-axis because it's parallel to the y-axis. So the only thing we have here is an x-intercept, which is 2, 0. To throw in another, if we had a vertical line, we would have a y-intercept, but we would not have an x-intercept because it's parallel to the x-axis. Okay, so those are 2 special circumstances. So if I'm graphing by plotting the intercepts, I have my linear equation, and I'm just going to put, let's go back a slide. Notice that your x-intercept has a 0 for y. Your y-intercept has a 0 for x. Same thing happens on the next slides that we had. Your x-intercept, 0 for y, x-intercepts, 0 for y. So when we go to fill in the table here, I'm putting in a 0 for x, that would give me my y-intercept. I could put in a 0 for y, that would give me my x-intercept. So let's do 4 equals, now instead of the x, we'll put in a 0. So then that gives me 4 equals negative 3y, divide by negative 3. And that gives me y equals negative 1 1/3. I'll change that because it'll just be easier to plot it. All right, I would do the same thing to find the y or x-intercept, except now I'm going to put in a 0 for y. So that's going to give me 4 equals x minus 0, or just 4 equals x. So that goes there. So notice here, we got a fraction for our y-intercept, and that's okay. So when I go to plot that, I know that this is my y-intercept because 0 is x. So on my y-axis, it's going to cross negative 1 1/3. So that's going to be down here. Here's negative 1. Here's negative 2. So that's going to be about 1/3 of the way more. So it'll be about right there. Okay, so yes, this is an estimation. It should be an approximate, but that's going to be my y-intercept of 0, negative 1 1/3. Then I can do my 4, 0, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is right there as a positive 4 on the x. And that would be your line. Same thing here. Again, if I'm graphing by plotting the intercepts, 0, 0. So when I plug in a 0 here for x, I get 0 equals y. So I put a 0 there. When I do the same thing but put a 0 in for y, so I'm moving to the second, you also get 0. Okay, and that's okay. So what that means is this is 0, 0. That's the origin. Okay, so it's okay if I get that, but it's not okay to be done there because I cannot draw a straight line with just a single point. Okay, so I have to have another point for this dot, this 0, 0 to attach to. So that's why I have this third column. So if ever you get your x-intercept and y-intercept is this 0, 0, I have to create a third point. And that could be any point you want it to be. So I could make it a 2. So when I do 2 times 2, so I'm plugging in a 2 here for the x equals y, I get y equals 4. So now I can do 2, 4, and that would give me a second point to connect that dot to. All right, so just a special circumstance, it happens. My x-intercept would be 0, my y-intercept would be 0, but that's a single point, and I have to have 2 points to make a straight line. So this third point, you could plug anything you want into here for this x and solve for y, just like we did in the table method, the XY table method. All right, let's look at another. So 0, 0. So let's put a 0 in for x. So we have y plus 4 equals 0. I would subtract the 4, get y equals -4. Do the same thing, except now let's put in 0 for y, and I get x equals 4. So that would be -4 on the y, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 down here. That's your y-axis. That was that one. And then a +4 on your x, which is your x-axis. And that would be your line. Good. All right, you try this one. See what you can get. All right, so we got 0, 0 because we're using the intercept method. So this would be -2 times 0 plus 3y equals 18. So those would cancel. I would divide by 3. And you get y equals, what is that, 6. Okay. Do the same thing, except now let's plug in 0 for y. And again, 3 times 0 is 0, those cancel. So divide by -2, you get -9. Alright, so that would be 6 on the y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's up here. And -9 on the x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it'd be about out here. Okay, another thing you could do is change the scale of it. So instead of using each one of these for 1, I could do, this could be 3, 6, 9, -3, -6, -9. So I could change my scale. So that would just kind of minimize it, kind of shrink it. So it would be something like that. So it just depends on your graph paper, but using by ones is fine. Mine just doesn't go that far. Good, very good. Okay, and then just to recap again, vertical and horizontal lines. So we're constantly thinking about those exceptions. So your vertical line is here, and your this one is only going to have a x-intercept, your horizontal lines are only going to have a y-intercept, and that's because vertical runs parallel to the y-axis. Horizontal runs parallel to the x-axis. All right, so just remember the few exceptions that are there.